welcome to A Valid Answer with Scott and Marshall. We are back again for another week, another episode 24 now, that you'll be able to find on iTunes if you want to find us there and check it out and follow us, our podcast. And you know, we started off in a lonely room over there with, you know, look different. And now here we are, all professional. And okay, it's about the same, but we're having a great time here. You can find us on kerncast.com, Kerncast on Facebook, A Valid Answer on Facebook, and either of our pages. Follow us on Facebook, be friends with us. We're really nice guys most of the time. Although sometimes I think I'm a little bit harsh on Marshall. I know that last week, Josh Gunderson, you made that comment that Marshall couldn't get a word in edgewise, and I'm like, yeah, that was probably true. I probably wasn't giving him much space. So it might be a little bit different today. Let me turn my volume down on this. There we go. So it might be a little different today, but we'd love for you to join us. Post some questions. Marshall, what are we talking about? This kind of stemmed from a little conversation that happened on Facebook.
Right. Well,
somebody posted something.
Another one of our of the hosts on Kerncast posted on her
Oh, that's
page.
right. That's right. Kelly, right? Yeah.
Kelly
Gladden.
Okay. She posted on her page the question: should an ICE official, that's Immigration and Customs Enforcement official, be posted at every polling place to protect our elections from fraud? And I just blew a gasket.
You blew a gasket. I looked at your response. I'm like, well, Marshall is being really emotional right now. He has a very strong feelings about that. And I was looking at it saying, here's the thing. I think I see a rational path that you can follow to get to that conclusion, but I don't necessarily know that that's what we should do, even if there's a rational path to it. Now, Marshall's like, what do you mean there's a rational path to it? There isn't one at all. And I want to play devil's advocate today to this, just to get you thinking about what it really means.
I was calling it fascism.
Yeah, you were saying fascism, and I'm also, you think I'm a fascist? And you're like, well, if you support fascism, then yeah, you're a fascist.
Yeah, if you do fascist things, right, you're a fascist.
So in the pre-show, or just after the pre-show, you said something. I'm like, oh, okay, that's where this is coming from. And that is basically I think what it comes down to is who has a right to vote where, not who has a right to vote. Everyone has a right to vote. That should be a guaranteed human right. But who has a right to vote where? Should anybody be allowed to vote anywhere? Should I be able to go to another country and vote?
No, I think citizens.
Okay.
People who have,
I'm a citizen of the United States. Can I go to New York and vote in New York?
For what? For New York state election?
Yeah.
No, you're not a citizen of New York. You're a citizen of California.
Can I go to Sacramento and vote in California?
Yes.
No, I cannot.
Yes, you can. You can turn in an absentee ballot there.
No, but I cannot vote. Sorry. Can I vote for their councilman?
Oh, no. I mean, there's a local aspect to elections, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to reside in the district and vote in the elections that affect you.
So there are restrictions on voting.
Of course, there are some restrictions on voting, and they're logical restrictions.
So can an illegal immigrant vote in the United States?
No.
Okay. So is that bad?
No, I don't have an issue with saying that unless voting is for citizens.
Okay.
I think you should have to be a citizen to have a vote.
So does ICE deal with citizens?
Well, technically, no, they're not supposed to.
Then why would it be a problem for an ICE agent to be at a voting place if illegals aren't supposed to vote anyway and they can't do anything to citizens? Why would that necessarily be a bad thing?
Well, first of all, Mr. Fiscal Conservative, that would be very expensive.
Oh, it'd be very expensive, yes. But I'm saying I'm talking on the moral principle, the moral principle of it. Why would that necessarily? What could they actually do to affect a citizen?
Putting armed government agents in polling places and stuff, particularly when there's no significant need for it, to me smacks of intimidation.
Okay,
it's a form of coercion.
Which is really the one reason that I didn't like the idea. Mm-hmm. I thought there was a rational path to that, but the only reason you would have them there would be to intimidate people to not show up.
Exactly.
And that's where I had a problem with it on a moral level, on an idealistic level, but on a legal, rational level, I didn't think I didn't think that was what were they doing that was illegal. What were they doing that was legally wrong? What would they be doing? Why wouldn't you want to post someone there to prevent somebody from doing? Why would you not want to post a guard to prevent somebody from doing something illegal?
Right. Well, to me, it gets back to it's similar to it's in the same vein as in 1984. Nothing to hide, nothing to fear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at what point, there are intimidation tactics being employed on a free citizenry.
But again, I don't think that ICE has any intimidation on a citizen. As a citizen, what do you have to fear of ICE?
Well, theoretically, nothing. But if they have the power to detain you, the power to question you,
Mm-hmm.
the power to show your ID, papers, please,
Mm-hmm.
if you will, and that was one of my problems. Is the only way they could do their job is if they screened every person coming through. So how are they going to screen people? Are they going to do racial profiling, or are they going to check everybody's ID at the door?
Going at that.
Again,
have you
papers,
ever
please,
right?
right?
Have you ever been to
Is this East Germany or the United States?
Okay, but I'm saying, have you ever been to a jewelry store that had a guard?
Yeah, well, I don't know about a guard, but I've been where you have to be buzzed in and so on.
No, but I'm saying, have you ever
That's
seen
a
a
private establishment.
I know, but I'm saying the thing is, they're not stopping you from going in. They're not checking you going in.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even allowed to profile you to go in. What's their whole reason there?
Well, they're preventing people from, making a heist, obviously.
Yeah. So again, putting that back to ICE, they're not checking for people. They're not finding people. They're just standing guard.
Okay, then in that case, you could have an unarmed security guard present. Again, the only way ICE can do its job is if they stop you and detain you and question you.
But
they have to see your papers to make sure that you're legitimate or not.
But would part of their job also entail preventing illegal immigrants from committing a crime?
How would they practically perform that duty?
Just by being there, the illegal immigrants wouldn't want to show up. Wouldn't they not be doing their job that way? Would that not be counted as a way to do their job?
Are they going to be allowed
just
to...
simply as a deterrent? Simply as a
What's
deterrent.
the difference? Is he there as window decoration?
I'm just saying.
If the agent would have to be at some point in order for the agent to be an effective deterrent,
mm-hmm.
and not just window dressing, not just some sort of strange fascist symbol, if you will, they would have to interact with people, and that interaction would have to involve, I need to see your papers, please. What if they didn't? Then they're kind of pointless.
Would you again? It's the thing that I was talking about with a long time ago about what's the difference between actual security and a deterrent? And we were talking about this in a gun debate at some point. I brought this up before. I don't know if it was with you or with me or not.
I don't recall it.
But the idea of posting a security guard, an armed security person at a school,
mm-hmm.
is a deterrent, but not actual security, because a person with a CCW is security. Because if you are looking for a crime of opportunity and you see the guard, you're going to be like, that's not an opportunity. It's a deterrent. I don't want to go here. I'll find someplace that doesn't have a guard. But if you are intent on doing something at that establishment, then the guard is simply the first target. You know who you have to take out first to get in. So it's a deterrent. An armed guard, a visible armed guard, is a deterrent, not necessarily actual security. So in this, just the presence of ICE being there could be considered a deterrent for those who would not want to risk showing up to commit an illegal act. Mm-hmm. So if they know they're illegal and they're going to show up to vote knowing that it's illegal for them to vote, why would it not be a problem to have a guard there for them to say, to question, say, is it worth me trying to do this illegal act and maybe get caught? Mm-hmm. That's why I look at it and say it could be a deterrent. Even if they don't do anything, it might reduce those who would want to commit that crime and have them not take the risk to commit that crime.
Okay.
Now, whether or not, again, we can get into, is it that big of a deal of a crime?
Well, that's my next question.
Is it that?
Does it even exist? Is this a problem?
I don't know.
Do we have a solution that's searching for a problem?
It could possibly be. But is there statistics? Is there that shows how many illegal immigrants are actually voting?
Yes.
Cool.
GQ magazine.
You're not starting off with a very good source here.
Well, that's okay. They're a mainstream news publication,
Yep.
so they're
So is
and
Playboy
commentary.
magazine, but come on.
Which, by the way, I mean, there's some good quotations you can find in Playboy magazine.
Just read it for the articles, right?
Right.
Actually,
So-
nowadays, I think that is all you read it for.
I don't know. I don't follow.
I didn't
but-
say you. Sorry.
But
not how
months
I
of
meant
work in North Carolina turned up a grand total of 19 foreign nationals who voted in 2016. In-person voter fraud has been one of the favorite Republican boogeymen for years now, which isn't surprising, blah, 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 blah. But since the election, Department of Justice-led investigation has been underway, and so on and so forth. And they found, again, 19 foreign nationals who voted. I don't even know if they voted for or against Trump. And it's a state that he won by over 177,000 votes. So the margins that we're looking at, voter fraud exists, but it's so minuscule in a republic of 320 million people that it's literally not an issue in this country. Also, Brennan Center for Justice at New York's University School of Law has several articles on what they call the myth of voter fraud, and they also have several resources as well as scholarly research, and they basically say that they've debunked President Trump's claim that millions improperly voted in the 2016 election. Voter fraud is not acceptable, but it's just not happening on the scale that people on the right claim or think that it's happening. It's simply not happening.
So it's a solution looking for a problem, and it's a problem that you feel is not real.
It's not a substantial problem. Certainly, I don't know of one election in the United States that has been swayed by voter fraud. Now, if we are really that concerned about foreign influence in our elections, let's talk about Russian influence in the elections, right? Let's talk about, things like that. Which Republicans seem to think that's not really that big of a deal. I think it's a huge deal.
It probably is a huge deal if the
to what degree it actually happened.
If the Republicans believe that 11 million illegals in California are voting, that would be a problem.
Right, but it's a perception.
Yeah.
If it's actually happening, then that's an issue.
Yeah.
So there are common sense ways I think we could address the problem. And I think one way that you would do it is you give everybody an ID. And
which already happens in California.
Right, you have to have your ID to vote. And I think the way that I would change the system, though, is right now, at least in California, you have to actually fill out a voter registration form. You have to check off your affiliation. You have to mail that off. Then when you do that, now you get put into the jury duty system and all of these other things.
Right.
And a lot of people don't like that. And it also requires effort. Every time you move, you also have to update your voter registration. It's another chore. And I think that deters people. I think it should be the other way around. The instant you become a citizen or the instant you turn 18, you should be automatically issued an ID, or it should be linked to your driver's license if you have a driver's license.
Okay.
And that ID then allows you to vote. You don't have to send off a voter registration form. You're automatically registered to vote.
So we got to change the system again.
Yes. But then when you vote, you present your ID, or if you vote by absentee, you record your little ID number, and you send that in. And as long as there's not a hit against your number and your ballot is unique, hey, no problem.
So if we want voter IDs, because I hear all the time Republicans and people on the right talking about we need voter ID, and people on the left saying you're just trying to keep people from voting. But you're saying we should have a voter ID.
But I think it should be automatically issued free of charge. One of the reasons why voter ID suppresses turnout is because you have to pay to get your ID. I mean, just to get a California license, I don't know what you pay. I don't remember, but I know that you pay.
$35.
That sounds about right. I was thinking in the neighborhood of 30. So that's probably about
we just did it for my son.
Okay, so there you go. So right there, $30 just to cast a vote. There are people who are just going to say, no, I'm not even going to bother. And I think this is something that should come with citizenship.
Who doesn't have an ID?
I don't know who doesn't have an ID.
Are you offering a solution that doesn't have a problem? I mean, who doesn't have an ID? What's the percentage of people walking around who don't have an ID?
I just want everybody to be automatically issued an ID. I don't want them to have to go through a process to get their ID. I want the issuance of the identification to be automatic upon 18 or citizenship. Actually, you have to have both. You have to be 18 and a citizen. Once you're above that.
But how do they know that?
Well, because you're in the system. When you go get your Social Security card or whatever, when you're born, you're put into the system. When you enter the country, you should be put into a system.
Okay.
So we're all cataloged in some fashion. We're all counted. I don't think there are very few people in the United States who are not counted. In fact, that's usually the definition of an illegal immigrant. It is also possible you have a few people who are born in this country and they live out in the middle of nowhere, or they're lost in the crowd, and for whatever reason, they're not registered into the system.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's exceedingly rare. I don't think that's an
So
issue.
do you think that having an automatic system that when you're born, you get a Social Security number, and now you're in this system, and it tracks you computer wise. So when you're 18,
well, you're in a database. It
right?
doesn't
You're
track you.
But you're in a database. So when you turn 18, how do they know where to send it?
Well, usually, again, by then you've updated your address or whatever. There's school records, for example. There's health records.
So all of
your
so
Social
now
Security
so now every
is linked to you as an individual. Your credit report.
So every time that's done, the Social Security Department knows that is now you, or are they just checking Social Security to see if that is you? I mean, is actually Social Security actually tracking that?
I don't know what Social Security does, but what I do know is that we are tracked by our Social Security number.
No,
that's why you put it on credit applications, school applications.
But I'm saying, who is
forms.
following that? I think you're getting it backwards. It's a check. Are you who you say you are? Check it. This Social Security person says it should be this. Yes, that person. Okay, cool. You are who you say you are. We're going to do this. But I don't think this information, this transaction, whatever we're talking about, is sent and stored at that area. How does the system that says, all right, this person's now 18 and they need an ID, how does that system know how to get the ID to the person?
Well, you have to link an address to that person.
Who? How? So now you're having to still do something, and every time, how is that solving what you're saying is?
Well, first of all, you're taking away the financial component. You have to pay $30 to get your state ID so you can vote. That's a problem. That's a barrier.
But that's not what it. That's again. I think that's a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. How many people don't have an ID? I mean, realistically speaking, how many people percentage wise don't have an ID? And again, what you're wanting to do doesn't solve what you're saying you want to solve.
Why millions of Americans have no government ID.
Okay.
Let's see here. I don't know. Let's see if I can find a number. I'm skimming this to look for a number.
Gotcha. So
apparently the figure is in the millions, however.
That don't have a government ID.
Yep.
Or a state ID.
Now, this is an interview, so I don't know where the number is, but they're saying it's in the millions.
Well, then that could be a problem that's out there. I'm just trying to figure out, how does the system that's handing out IDs get it to you automatically? Well, is there a realistic way for that to happen, or do you need to be the person that goes and starts that? I am so and so. Here's my Social Security number. This is who I really am. Give me my ID.
Well, at some point you're going to have to register your home address, and we all do this all the time whenever we fill out legal forms.
Unless you're homeless.
Unless you're homeless, but even if you're homeless, then there's an ID waiting for you to claim. All you have to do is give us a PO box, or you can go into a DMV office or a Social Security office or any place.
I would like
get the ID.
I would like it to be the way you're talking about, but
Good.
It would require a big change in the system, and I'm wondering if there's any violation of privacy or anything like that in it for one place to be tracking what's going on. Because here's the thing: if you are born and your name, your birth certificate is tied to a Social Security number, and it's put into the system. The system says this is a real person who was born. If that person dies from SIDS or whatever as a baby, it says this person has now died. Here's the Social Security, and that looks and immediately says, okay, well, this is no longer a valid Social Security number because this person's dead. And then everything you do when you buy a home, when you do this, that information is not just it's not just, hey, is this the real person? But that is now sent and that's tracked. I think people would not like that the government is tracking every move, everything that's going on, but you would have to, so that when that person is 18, it knows where they're at. It then sends the ID. And if that was the system, if that could be done, it would be very difficult to trick that system by coming and saying, because right now the system is you bring your papers of evidence to say who you are, and those papers of evidence could be fraudulent. And that That would solve it, but I'm wondering if would that be an Orwellian change to have a system that tracks every person in that way and is required to track basically every move. Every time you do anything that would require a social security check, that system now stores that you made that request and what your address is at that request and stuff like that. Would that be
It's already happening in the status quo. The question is
not within the
database.
Yeah, exactly. It's not happening within the government.
Kept.
Yeah. So would it be that big of a deal?
Well, obviously,
because I think it would solve a lot.
There's privacy concerns,
Yeah.
but look, we are the nation that, 45 years ago, we landed people on the moon.
Yeah.
And I think we can solve these challenges. Yes, there are privacy concerns, but I think that we can handle this in such a way that we safeguards people's privacy concerns.
45 years ago? I don't think the math is working out on that.
Maybe not.
Okay.
More like 50, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's
over
1960.
50.
It's 49 years.
Yeah, you're right.
The next year is 50
gosh.
years.
Gosh, I'm older than I thought.
I'm like 8 minus 5 is 3. It was not 1963 that happened. It was 1969.
Right. 7% of Americans have no photo ID. Confirmed. Those are the people they've confirmed that they have no photo ID. That's a significant number.
That's a significant number.
And that can change an election.
20 some odd million people.
Mm-hmm. And many elections are decided by much narrower margins. So
yes.
I think getting these people ID'd would certainly help.
But could you do that? That system literally would have to start with every person born now and moving forward, because that system, to allow the 300 million people currently to just present their stuff, doesn't solve the problem that the system is created for. Mm-hmm. Is this a system that has to go up over generations?
Does it have to be grandfathered in? I don't think so. I think we could start it. I don't know how long it would take to build it, maybe a year or two, but no, I don't think it's as challenging as you're making it out to be. I think we could solve it. It's an engineering problem. Mm-hmm. It's a legal problem, which you simply write the law to say, for example, the information in the database cannot be used for certain purposes, but it will be used for only these explicit purposes.
And nobody can loophole that, right?
Right. Well, the thing is, every move that we make in today's modern electronic society is cataloged somewhere. Even where you drive is recorded by your cell phone. It bounces off a cell tower. Yep. It's recorded in a database, and the FBI could theoretically use this to track your movements. Mm-hmm. For going back days, weeks, months.
Which, as we found out, the NSA was doing with the whole Snowden thing. That they were doing that with American citizens anyway. So
which that's a big national discussion that we have to have. I don't think anybody here wants the government to be spying on us.
Exactly.
But we also don't want fraudulent elections. We want our elections to have integrity, and that doesn't just mean
like you
keeping
said,
the illegals out. It also means keeping the Russians out, right?
But like you said, is this also just another solution looking for a problem? Is there actually voter fraud problem that is significant enough that is significant enough to change the system in that way?
I think the real threat to our democracy isn't voter fraud or people even without IDs, even though I want those people to be dealt into the system. Yeah. The problem that I have with our republic is the way that our politicians are bought off by corporate and private interests.
Yeah, that's
and the way they
problem.
betray their own constituents once they're in office repeatedly, time and time again.
And again, here's the thing. There's when you're talking about computer hacks, I've been using a Macintosh since 1987, Macintosh computer, which initially was written. Now you're the person spilling, aren't you?
I just pulled a Scott.
You just pulled a Scott. That's what we're going to call it from now on. Because for those you don't know, one of the episodes back then, I was talking, everything. My elbow hit my full mug, and it just went poof all over me. And I'm like, and we're just going to keep on going with the show. But I've been using Macintosh for a long time because it was designed. The system was designed with it in a different way than it was designed closed, whereas Windows was designed open and very hackable. For the longest time, it was nearly impossible to hack a Macintosh. There were hacks, but they were Trojan horses. And the difference between what I figure is a hack and a Trojan horse is a Trojan horse requires a naive or stupid person to allow themselves to be hacked. Yep. It's saying, I am this, and you don't verify that it's actually that, and you install it yourself. It can't do anything to your computer without your permission. So when I hear the words, the Russians hacked our elections, I don't I don't agree to that terminology, because whatever they didn't literally hack into the system and change the votes.
Right.
They did
tricked
propaganda
people.
to trick stupid people to make stupid decisions.
And by the way, our own government routinely interferes in elections all around the world all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, all the time.
So
that's
pot's calling the kettle black. here.
exactly. So I'm looking at it and saying, I don't really call that election hacking. I think that's a clickbait type thing of it's election hacking. No, hacking would be they actually went into the system and changed votes and actually went in, and that is a whole lot more difficult than what they show in the movies. You know, people are like, oh, you can just hack the voting thing and change the.
Well, they had that 11-year-old kid hacked into this little thing.
Yeah.
But, so they can hack the election machines. It can be done.
Yeah.
But again, I think the real betrayal of the system, the real betrayal of the republic, is not happening at the election level. It's happening at the congressional level.
And I think I agree with you, honestly. I think the much bigger problem is big government and money in politics. That's the bigger problem, more than anything, more than the Russian propaganda, more than illegal citizens voting, more than dead people voting. I don't
By far.
You know what I mean? Like I really haven't seen. I'm going to have a lot of Republican friends or friends on the right be like, but that's happening, Scott. I show me the actual articles and the things, because I know that it's a feeling, but I don't know that it's really a thing, or is significant enough of a thing for it to be addressed. Again, I'm also going to look at it in the same way, and you're not going to like this, but in the same way of there's 330 million guns in America. 99.99999% of them do not kill people. And yet everybody wants to ban guns. It's like, well that's
voter fraud doesn't necessarily kill people, but guns do. So
what do you mean? So who you elect doesn't affect life and death?
Well, how your elected official votes affects life and death.
Yeah, and how they get into office is your vote. So your vote does carry weight on life and death.
But a lot less weight.
Yeah.
I would rather live in a precinct with a voter fraud, person committing voter fraud, than a person committing mass mayhem with a gun.
Yeah.
But whatever.
So, but I'm just saying, again, it's both sides throwing mud at the uneducated people to get them to argue about.
Right. Well, because it's a wedge issue, and that's their bread and butter, man. Look, I think every sensible American, I've used this analogy before. You could take two sensible middle-class Americans, even on opposite ends of the political spectrum, sit them down over a pizza and a beer, and give them an hour or two and say, you know what, solve
or 30
the healthcare
30
issue.
minutes or 45 minutes every week.
Exactly. Solve the immigration issue. If this nation wanted to stop illegal immigration, we could do so overnight. It would involve a massive undertaking. It would probably be a military undertaking. We don't have to build a wall. We're not going to build a wall. We will never build a wall, and if we did, the wall wouldn't work.
Yeah.
There are ways to secure the border using drones and sensors and patrols and all these other things. And then
Which all might end up being more expensive than a wall.
Well, I don't know about that, but if it's effective, right? But the thing is, that why don't we have all of these measures? Why is the border as porous as it is? It's not simply geography and the fact that it's expansive and hot and inhospitable territory. It's the fact that people on both sides don't want to control it. The people at the top say they want to control it, or they say that they want open borders, but they're really just putting on a show to harvest votes from us. And then when they get into the office, you look at the voting records. Don't look at what they say, look at what they do. You have to understand that big business in the United States makes a lot of profit employing undocumented immigrants. And without undocumented immigrants, I don't even know how we bring in the harvest here in California.
Right.
I don't know how we do it. It's the backbone of our farm labor. So here it is going
Do
on.
people
right
really
under our
want to
noses.
pay $5 for a head of lettuce?
Exactly. So we're all complicit in this.
Because that's the ultimate.
Right. And we are complicit in
and,
this.
And on principle, I think we should.
I do too.
What is happening to our show?
We're being reasonable,
What's going on?
rational, middle-class Americans is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're discussing our differences, and we're coming to logical conclusions. Congress is a dog and pony show. Even the whole gun thing is a dog and pony show. The border thing, dog and pony show. All of these things, all of these issues, healthcare. There is no reason why politicians get health care for life. Meanwhile, they turn around and try to deny people like us health care. You know, I mean, I get there's the whole philosophical thing, and that should how big should government be? I get that. That's a big disagreement. I'm okay with big government as long as that big government answers to the people and provides people with goods and services that they value. The reason why everybody hates paying taxes is because the government squanders the money on corporate subsidies, bailouts, foreign aid, defense contracts, and Lord knows what the heck else. Mm-hmm. But you and I are not receiving services that we value. And that's why people are so anti-tax in this country. If you go overseas, people don't mind paying high taxes because they see themselves getting things that they value. Their education's paid for, their health care is paid for, their infrastructure is supported. They're seeing things that give them a return on that investment. Whereas here, it's just money going down a drain. So
I have a question.
That's the problem.
Josh, has he gotten a word in edgewise?
Anyway, that's my rant. That's my take on the situation.
No, I think we both agree that you know, let's focus on the real problems here. Let's focus on. I mean, again, no matter what conversation we have, it almost always boils down to get money out of politics and get. I always come down to and get the politicians out of politics. Like get the same. I mean, term limits out. Term limits out. There should not be a career. There should not be such a thing as a career politician.
Right.
That should not
Most
be a
Americans,
career.
I think, agree with that.
That should not be a career. But the problem is the people who have the power to make the law to make that illegal are never going to make that a law for themselves.
Right. They're not going to vote themselves a pay cut. They'll vote themselves multiple pay raises.
And it could possibly happen
while
in
denying
states.
you minimum wage increases.
Now, it could possibly happen in a state like California where the Constitution of California allows for propositions. And for a proposition to come into effect, I'm sure there's a way they could probably find a way around that. But I'm saying, is there a way to do that constitutionally, federally? We'd have to amend the Constitution. It'd have to be amended to the Constitution, which would be, you'd have to have a constitutional convention, basically, right?
Right. Or invoke Article 5, which does the same thing. If 2/3, I think it is, of the states agree under Article 5 of the Constitution, then Congress actually gets no say. The president gets no say.
Nice.
The states alone, but it takes 2/3 of the states, can change the Constitution.
And the judicial system has no say because the judicial system can only say, is it constitutional? And the states have the power to change the Constitution.
Right.
Gotcha. So it's the one way that the three branches cannot do anything.
But don't dismiss the wiliness of lawyers who will get their hands on it and they will
ban all lawyers
or do whatever. You know, that's the thing is you can pass the greatest law on the planet, but then the lawyers come in and then, you know, the court issues, you know, a halt, you know, an injunction or whatever and says, well, we can't implement yet. You know, we understand this is what the people want, but we can't implement. And then it gets put off or eventually killed.
Wow.
I'm
depressed.
Yeah, it is depressing.
I'm depressed. You've really depressed me, Marshall. All this rational thinking.
There's reason for hope. I think young people today are more awake to these problems. There are certainly, we're creating an entire population.
I think they like to think they're more awake. When you actually talk to them, they're still pretty darn ignorant. They think
because they're
woke.
inexperienced. Because they're
I'm
young.
woke.
They're
and
young.
No, you don't know what you're talking about.
They're young. They don't have the same level of life
but they're
experience.
Woke.
Okay, but you know what? Hey, if they are simply aware of the fact that there are problems in this country that are systemic, things such as institutional racism, and I know we're not
going to get into that.
But if they are simply aware that these problems exist, if they are aware that
or they believe the
exist,
propaganda and are being guided by the very big system,
suffices for now. And as they get older and wiser and they
learn
more,
awareness of a false problem does not help. Awareness of a false problem does not help.
I think we have to revisit this in 2 weeks when we get back.
Okay. Aren't most politicians lawyers? That's a very good question, Joshua Roberts. Aren't most politicians lawyers? Why? Are they?
They were. I think now many of them actually are former educators. But the number one career for a politician now is politician. Politicians are now career politicians. Teachers are very well represented in the ranks of politicians, at least former teachers. That doesn't mean they're necessarily pro-education, though. And then lawyers. But career politicians is now the number one role.
So we're talking someone who, when they were 18 and got a job, they were already working, as an intern in a political system?
Exactly
okay,
that.
Gotcha.
Exactly that.
That's where they started. That was their first job, was interning in a political system and being part of politics from their very first job.
Yes. I know this because I looked this up quite recently, probably a couple months ago or whatever. But
I'll take your word for it on that one because it sounds.
But yes,
it sounds. Guys, if you want to challenge that, you can post your article on here and on the comments. But that was a very good question, Joshua, about whether or not most politicians are lawyers. For the longest time it was, right? That's pretty much what it was, like all through the 1800s, right?
Yes, and I see some sense in that. I get that.
Because you're making laws, so it makes sense that you understand how laws work, yeah.
But I don't think it's necessarily a prerequisite. You and I could go to Congress and be pretty decent representatives.
Yeah.
Even though we'd be on different sides of the aisle, but we'd be pretty decent representatives.
I hope that I would stand and clap for something that was said, even if it was the person that I didn't vote for. You know what I mean? Like how it's like they say something this is great, and then like all the Republicans stand up to clap for Trump.
I'm not doing the whole
the
State of the Union dog and pony show.
Right? It's like
right?
No, if that's good, I'll stand and clap. If it's not good, I'm going to sit down. I don't care who's saying.
Things that are common sense.
I hope that I would. I think that there's a lot of people in there who hope that they would too. I have enough faith in some of the people who tried to go there to do the right thing and got swallowed up by the system.
Well, I think that happens all the time.
So I would like to say that's what I would do, but I think that's a very prideful thing to say. I think that's an arrogant thing to say because you don't know what that power does. Because what does power do?
It corrupts.
What does absolute power do?
It corrupts absolutely.
That's right.
But it rocks absolutely too.
You wouldn't know.
The thing is we have to, we had that episode way back where we talked about revolution.
Yeah.
And the revolution begins at home, in your house, in your circle of friends.
That's right.
And it starts with you talking about ideas the same way Scott and I get together and talk. It doesn't have to be adversarial. You just talk about ideas, and you kind of have to lay the groundwork and say, look, we're just talking about ideas. It's not meant to be personal. We're not going to call each other idiots. We're going to disagree, but we're just going to talk about ideas. And we start to talk about ideas instead of the sports score or what was on television or the latest
Oh my
HBO
gosh,
series,
you can't, sorry.
Right? I tell you, you start talking about ideas, you start changing the nature of the conversation in the society itself.
And I think that goes along with something that Joshua just posted here. Parsing valid information is not as easy as it used to be because there's so much information out there.
Right.
We got to have these discussions. There's so much false information out there. There used to be there's only certain sources. I mean, and maybe the democratization of information has actually worked against society.
Right. Well, we have this incredibly powerful device right in our pocket. We use it to look at pictures of cats or whatever we do now.
They're so cute.
Right. So.
Or Chuck Norris jokes. Come on. Chuck Norris jokes are
they're
awesome.
Pretty awesome. Yeah, I agree. But so we literally have the Library of Alexandria, the Vatican Library, the Library of Congress. We have all of this knowledge and information. The Harvard Library, which I think is the largest private library.
Don't forget Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. Which is good for
I was being facetious, but yeah.
I think you can use Wikipedia for general basic information.
Yeah.
But
it's like going to IMDb trivia. You realize that just anybody can. I've added trivia in IMDb. So.
But the bottom line is at least do some research rather.
Gabriel has added trivia in IMDb.
Rather than a meme, right? You know, getting your news from a meme or a big problem.
Thank
a lot
you.
Of people,
so finally you agree that memes hurt.
You were right about this.
Memes hurt.
I still like memes.
No, you're part of the problem when you do that.
But
memes hurt.
I forgot what I was going to say now, but yes, definitely do a Google search though. Search and find the next layer of information.
Although Google probably won't show you all the conservative results.
Well, okay, scroll through, right? But don't cherry pick. It's important to have friends who are on the opposite end of the political spectrum as you.
Because they're going to keep you accountable.
Tend to block and delete people who disagree with us. I think we need to seek some of those people out. You need to have at least a few in your timeline and they're going to say stuff that's going to make you angry and upset because they're going to challenge your core beliefs and your assumptions.
As long as they're rationally challenging core beliefs, I actually had to. I've never unfriended you, but I had to unfollow you for a while because you were just being so.
Oh, I've had my episode,
and I'm like, I can't even open my Facebook because something Marshall says way out there, and I'm like, but I let you know, hey, I'm unfollowing you right now because I think you're being a jerk online. You and I can get together face to face and we're fine, but I can't deal with your online presence. And so I unfollowed you, and eventually that turned around because we started meeting face to face again. It was during a time when we weren't meeting face to face, and it became a whole lot easier to be jerks online.
Yeah. So I think the solution is talk to one another about ideas. Start supporting politicians, people who are running for office who are from your neighborhood. Start voting for millionaires.
Start supporting politicians who are not politicians.
Exactly. Vote for people who are not necessarily millionaires, who don't live in gated communities, but live in the neighborhoods that you do, who send their children to the schools that your children attend.
Or better yet, run yourself.
That's a great idea as well, because, again, you don't have to be a lawyer to be a politician, because you get aides, you get a staff, you get people who support you.
Yep.
And
you get all your cronies.
Right? Remember me, give me a call. I don't think I'd want to
Marshall, when you get into power,
Washington,
remember who was there
DC.
for you.
Right?
Wait, isn't that just perpetuating the same problem?
Right? Don't worry, Scott. I'll send you a care
It's okay.
package to your gulag.
No.
To your gulag.
When I rule the world, I'll put you in charge of religious studies.
Oh no.
Because you're fully qualified, right? As an atheist.
Right.
Sorry.
Probably more qualified than many religious people, believe it or not.
No,
anyway.
no, Joshua. People get political views from Twitter and Facebook. That's not research.
Yeah. No, I get that.
A lot of times, it's a good spark.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that it's a good spark to be like, what is that true? And then I'll research it.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, it's not, but it could spark something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, this has been an interesting episode. It hasn't been exactly what we've had before, but this has been a valid answer with Scott and Marshall, a pastor and an atheist, coming together every week and having these discussions, being real, keeping it real, just keeping it real, right? Right. I gotta do that.
Awesome.
Keep that. So yeah, you can catch us on currentcast.com on Sunday nights at 5:00. You can catch us on A Valid Answer, and you're gonna say something right now.
I'm gonna miss everybody next Sunday.
Next week, but tune in to watch us go shooting at 5 Dogs Range, and make your comments on there, and try not to make fun of Marshall too much because it was his first time firing.
How do you hold this? Is this
yeah. And then the first time you felt the recoil of a 223 on an AR-15 was I was doing my best to coach him and get him to lean in and get in there, but that first one kind of threw you for a loop. So it'll be interesting to watch. You guys don't want to miss it next week. Until next week, this is Scott and Marshall, Valid Answer. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.